August 1975. A wall of water tears through central China, destroying dozens of dams in a single night. Villages vanish before a single warning can be sent. It remains the deadliest dam failure in recorded history, and decades later, the true death toll is still disputed. But years before that night, one hydrologist had argued this exact catastrophe was inevitable. He was punished for it. I am Tom Kessler. As a researcher deeply interested in hydraulic engineering and hydropower history, I look at these structural failures through the lens of design and geography. Long before any concrete was poured at Banqiao, central Henan was already a natural trap. The Yellow River's 1938 course change choked the Huai Basin's natural drainage channels to the sea with massive deposits of silt. Runoff simply had nowhere to go. When catastrophic floods struck in 1949 and 1950, killing thousands of people, flood control immediately became an urgent national priority for the newly established People's Republic. The state's definitive answer to this recurring crisis was a rapid, basin-wide dam-building campaign designed to store water and prevent further disasters. It was an engineering war waged against geography, built on the promise that human ingenuity could tame the rivers. Between 1950 and 1959, the regional safety strategy transformed into an extraordinarily rapid construction campaign, raising more than 100 dams across the basin. Because the country lacked experienced heavy construction crews, the state mobilized hundreds of thousands of local farmers, soldiers, and volunteers to haul earth and pack clay under the guidance of Soviet technical advisors. The Banqiao Dam, a massive earth-fill embankment structure on the Ru River tributary, was thrown up in just over a year. Almost immediately, workers noticed severe cracks webbed across the dam's core wall. To save the project, engineers patched the cracks with concrete facing and later raised the entire crest by 7 meters in 1962. Instead of prompting caution, these modifications only solidified a dangerous official hubris. State newspapers declared the finished structure completely indestructible, and local communities proudly nicknamed the barrier the Iron Wall Golden City, an engineering triumph they believed could never fail. Dr. Zhang Guangfu, a hydrologist at the North China Institute of Water Resources, looked at the basin's rising wall of dams with growing concern. In a 1964 memorandum, Zhang warned that Henan was being overdammed without adequate outlet capacity. He calculated that Banqiao's modest spillway, designed for irrigation storage rather than rapid flood release, would fail during a 500-year storm. His warnings were dismissed as excessive caution. During the Cultural Revolution in 1968, provincial officials labeled Zhang's engineering calculations counter-revolutionary sabotage. They stripped him of his academic rank and exiled him to a remote agricultural bureau in Shandong. He was briefly recalled in 1973 after Typhoon Rita triggered unexpected flooding. Zhang quickly discovered that sedimentation had already clogged Banqiao's intake gates by 30%. He urged immediate upgrades, but by late 1974, political priorities shifted and Zhang was sidelined once again. In the mid-20th century, China's water management policy was dictated by a singular national mandate: prioritize agricultural production at all costs. Government directives commanded engineers to maximize water storage for grain irrigation, intentionally pushing reservoirs to their physical limits. Spillway capacity, which allowed valuable water to escape downstream, was treated as an expensive, secondary design feature. This storage-first policy collided with an aggressive, unrelated industrial campaign that stripped the region's hillsides of forests, which rapidly increased soil erosion and water runoff into the river basin. In this highly charged political atmosphere, engineering calculations were treated as ideological statements. Any designer who advocated for larger safety margins or wider spillways was seen as actively challenging the state's economic program, rendering technical caution a dangerous, career-ending form of political skepticism. On July 31, 1975, Typhoon Nina formed in the Philippine Sea, striking Taiwan before moving inland toward Henan Province. On August 4th, the storm collided with a cold front and stalled directly over the Huai River basin. For 3 days, it hovered in place. The rainfall shattered every design forecast. At the Zhengzhou Meteorological Station, the clouds released over 1,000 millimeters of water in just 4 days. In some areas, a single day of rain surpassed the region's entire yearly average of 800 millimeters. Runoff rushed down the deforested hillsides directly into the reservoir system. The Banqiao Reservoir, built with a live flood storage capacity of 1.5 billion cubic meters, faced an incoming deluge of nearly 3 billion cubic meters. The basin was taking in double the volume of water it was designed to hold. At 2:30 in the morning on August 7th, local operators requested permission to begin a large-scale water release. But the Provincial Water Bureau, fearing that immediate discharge would worsen flooding in the downstream plains, hesitated. It took nearly 20 hours for the Ministry of Water Resources to approve the order, granting permission at 10:15 in the evening. By then, the reservoir had already filled to 92% of its capacity. Even if operators had received the order earlier, they could not act on it. At 3 in the morning that same day, falling trees and landslides tore down the high-voltage telegraph lines connecting Banqiao to the outside world. The dam staff were cut off from upstream monitoring stations and the downstream command center. They had to rely on handwritten logs and visual observations as the water climbed. The final barrier was physical. When operators manually tried to crank open the gates, they discovered that years of deferred dredging had left over a meter of silt packed into the intake tunnels. This sediment reduced the gate's opening capacity by 40%. When all 3 gates were forced open, they passed only 1,400 cubic meters of water per second, far below the design rate of 2,300. These 3 separate breakdowns, delayed authorization, severed communications, and choked intakes, stacked together to eliminate any chance of outflow control. The reservoir had reached a physical dead end. The incoming deluge had nowhere left to go. Just past midnight on August 8, 1975, water rose past the crest of the Banqiao Dam, pouring directly over its downstream face. Earthen embankments are fundamentally unable to survive sustained overtopping. Unlike concrete, the packed clay and sand are easily swept away by moving water, which rapidly cuts deep erosion channels, undermines the toe of the structure, and causes a sudden, catastrophic collapse. At exactly 1 in the morning, the main dam suffered a complete breach. Over 700 million cubic meters of water surged outward in just a few hours, initiating a violent chain reaction that overtopped and destroyed dozens of downstream reservoirs. This massive wall of water swept across flat rural farmland at 30 miles per hour, heading toward sleeping villages with no siren systems or official evacuation plans to warn them. The true scale of the loss that followed remains impossible to state with absolute precision. At the time, national newspapers ignored the catastrophe, and official records were immediately sealed. Decades later, a stark divergence remains between official estimates and internal studies. While early state reports acknowledged 26,000 deaths, an unreleased 1977 Ministry of Water Resources investigation placed the number closer to 240,000. Independent estimates from human rights organizations run even higher, reaching 300,000. This statistical dispute was further complicated in 1992, when the government officially revised its public numbers ahead of a major legislative vote to approve the Three Gorges Dam and rebuild Banqiao itself. By adjusting the historical record down to 171,000, officials presented a more manageable narrative of risk, leaving researchers to reconstruct the true human cost from fragments of memory and heavily guarded archives. True safety lies in listening to the most cautious voice in the room. Here, we explore dam and hydropower history, Share your corrections or first-hand accounts below before our next episode on the Teton collapse. Subscribe for more.